Welcome. I'm Tom Seesan, and I will be your host for this edition of Massillon Magazine. We have another important election coming up this November, in fact it's November 7th, for the citizens of Massillon. Not only do we have a lot of issues on the ballot, but all council seats are up for grabs. And it's my pleasure to spend some time with the Republican candidates, some of the Republican candidates for some of the ward seats coming up this election, November 7th. So it's my pleasure right now to talk with Mike Gregg, who is a candidate for Ward 3.
Yep.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, thank you for having me, Tom.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your background, about yourself, and then when you get done with that, just tell us, or tell me, or your viewers, why you have become interested in running for council.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to do that. My background is been in financial services my entire career. Primarily with one company, but basically 34 years in financial services. I've been a 20-year resident of Ward 3 in Massillon. I've raised 3 sons that have all gone through the Massillon City School System and done tremendously well. My family is so proud of the Massillon City Schools and the education that my sons have received there. My oldest son graduated last spring. He's now living in, he graduated last spring from Ohio University. He's now living and working in Virginia. My middle son, Austin, who designed all my campaign literature, is a senior at Ohio University. And my youngest son, Nate, who you may recognize his name from last year. Nate was the place kicker for the last 2 years on the Tiger football team. He was also a senior captain and special teams player of the year last year. He's my treasurer. So it's definitely a family undertaking. My wife, Teresa, couldn't be more supportive, and I couldn't do it without her. And that's just, I think that throughout the years I've coached youth sports in Massillon. I felt that was a good way to give back to the community. That's over now with my sons getting older, and so I feel like now is a good time in my life to shift gears a little bit and look to find another way to do my best to help the community of Massillon that my wife and I and my family just loves. So I think that's why I decided to run. An opportunity presented itself. The timing made sense. So I think that's why we're involved. And I'm looking forward to working with the City Council as it becomes as it's put together in the new year, and also with the mayor to do the best we can for the city. I certainly have the interests of the Ward 3 residents primarily at heart, but I have an interest for the entire city, that I want to see my background be used in the best way possible to help the citizens of Massillon.
Good, good. So I know that you've been busy, you've been walking the streets and talking with people in Ward 3. So when you talk with the residents of Ward 3, what are their concerns? What are they telling you?
Well, first of all, obviously, Tom, I hear streets. It is the primary thing that I hear from the citizens when I talk to them, and they want to know when are our streets getting fixed. And I point out to them the streets are getting fixed. Money has been allocated and repairs are being made. Probably not as fast as we all would like to see, but that's something I want to get involved with if I am fortunate enough to gain a city council seat, is to make sure that Ward 3 gets its fair share of the dollars that are allocated for street repaving, but to make sure that throughout the city those dollars are allocated as fairly and equitably as possible.
And putting that into perspective, and you're hearing the concerns from the residents, what do you see additionally as needs for this community?
Well, I'd say probably in my ward, especially in Ward 3, the second biggest issue I hear about is the reservoir and the state of Reservoir Park, and that's something I'm certainly concerned with. And I'll come back to this in a few moments, but many people in Ward 3 and frankly outside of Ward 3 are concerned about what's going on with the dam and Reservoir Park, as am I. And I just say I've been involved with talking to folks about it, but I've also been involved with a wonderful organization, grassroots organization called Restore Our Reservoir. You've probably seen many of their signs around the city. I've been to their meetings, talked to their organizers. These folks are passionate about the reservoir as am I. And I feel that there is definitely a solution that needs to be, we need to come up with. I know the city is studying it, still looking for numbers. I want to be involved with that. I want to see that we do the best we can to restore Reservoir Park to the crown jewel of our park system. I think that it always has been. I think it needs to be again. I think, but we need to do that with the most, need to do that as efficiently as possible with the taxpayers' dollars, and make sure that money is spent wisely for that in that regard, and that we get the best bang for our buck. Another issue that I've talked about, and maybe haven't spoken to citizens so much about, but I think it all kind of ties back into the infrastructure aspect of streets and the park system, is bringing young families and new businesses into Massillon, making Massillon a place that people want to relocate to, the young families want to stay and grow their families in. And the way we have to do that, Tom, is a combination of infrastructure, good streets, attractive neighborhoods, beautiful park system, of course, but jobs. We've got to provide a atmosphere that's small, medium. We'd love to have large businesses, but to get started with small, medium businesses that can grow into large businesses can come. They can build a presence in Massillon. They can provide a good living for the people of Massillon, especially, like I said, the younger people that are growing families, so that Massillon is a place that people want to live in, want to stay in, and just thrive. I think that's the only way we're going to do that. Now, how do we do that? It's a complicated issue, of course, but it involves the best use of tax dollars, I think, is one thing. We look at tax incentives for businesses. We look at breaks for businesses to relocate here. I'm all for those things as long as they make sense for the city, and that's what I want to get involved with, and I think my financial background lends itself to getting involved with that and helping in that regard.
Okay, you've addressed how you see we could bring businesses and industry to this community. As far as the other issues are concerned, and I know this could take a whole another session, how do you plan on addressing the concerns that the citizens bring up and you feel are important, not only for your ward but for the entire city? And just take just a few seconds to kind of hit that.
Right. Well, I think that first of all, you need to keep communication lines open. You need to. I need to be available, which I plan to be, to hear what the citizens want to know and want to express as far as their concerns with the city. Once those are expressed, I'm certainly going to take those to council. Work hard to build legislation around those things that make sense for the city. Get involved with the council. This is not something where one person, I think, can ramrod things through. I think I need to work with our council and, of course, with our mayor. I think as a team, if we get together, we can build a consensus and figure out the best thing we can do for Massillon. I think that all in all, we've done that in the past, but I think some common sense could be brought forth as well. Not that we haven't had common sense, but I just feel that I have that type of approach to problem solving, and I just want to provide that for the city council, to provide my part of the teamwork.
Okay, one last question I have for you, $64,000 question. Why do you feel you're the best candidate for this position?
Well, I think it's kind of a combination of the things I mentioned: my background, my community involvement I've had in the past, my concern about the city of city of Massillon, my concern, city of Canton as well. We got to work with our neighbors, so that's something we always have to keep in mind, that we're not on an island. Massillon has neighbors that we need to be concerned about and work with as well. But of course, my concern about the city of Massillon and how I can use my talents to affect change and positive change. And I think I'm the best person to do that, because I feel like I represent the entire Ward 3. I feel like I have walked the entire ward. I've been involved in all areas, southeast side, northeast side. I've talked to citizens all over the ward, door to door. You'll see signs throughout the ward of mine, so you can see that I have a presence. And I feel that I have an open mind to what our citizens are looking for especially in Ward 3, but also for someone that can work for the entire city of Massillon.
Good. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess one quick thing I'll mention. I mentioned that my son Austin has passed out. Both my sons have been involved with passing out my campaign literature, but he also was involved in the design of it. If you see it of mine, you know I don't look like that anymore. So the reason for it is in May I was diagnosed with lymphoma. It's a very treatable and curable disease. I've gone through 5 out of 6 chemo cycles. I was elected to take 6 chemotherapy cycles. I've done fantastic. I've had no issues. I feel great. My energy is up. My enthusiasm is up. My prognosis is excellent. In fact, I had a PET scan done a short while ago. It was totally clear. So everything is on the upswing on that regard. As I mentioned, my energy is up, and I'm just looking forward to getting involved and putting my energy into the campaign, and then forward into hopefully through the goodwill of the citizens of Massillon and Ward 3 that I can be a representative on City Council.
Well, good, thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I think it's important that the people of Massillon do get out and vote on November 7th, and it's important that they have an informed choice, and it's my hope that the sessions that we have will provide the citizens of Massillon with that informed choice. Remember, get out and vote on November 7th. Thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.